Hi there, Year 10 English. Welcome to your lesson. I thought I'd actually start today without talking about what you're going to do to begin with. I'm actually going to read you an excerpt from Dracula and then we'll go from there. So here we go. When all was ready, Van Helsing said, "Before we do anything, let me tell you this. It is out of the law and experience of the ancients and of all those who have studied the powers of the undead. When they become such, there comes with the change of the curse of immortality. They cannot die, but must go on age after age, adding new victims and multiplying the evils of the world. For all that die from their preying of the undead become themselves undead and prey on their kind. And so the circle goes on ever widening, like as the ripples from a stone thrown in the water." So why did I read that to you rather than just going, here's the work, let's get going? I think that it is good to, as you're writing your stories, to come back to listening to the language in someone else's. So that brings me to what we're doing. Let's go to Hapara. The first thing I want to bring to your attention is the workflow document. Okay? So if we flick into this document here, so you can see that it's the top of the Hapara page in the learning activities, this is what it looks like. So you've got learning activities here, and that's where we will write down what it is that we expect you to do in your lessons. And in this case, what we expect you to do is to work on your project. Okay? You're writing your story. It'll say here which teachers are online to help you. And in here, what we need you to do is to write your name down at the beginning of the lesson so that we know that you're here and you're ready for your learning. This section here is where you're going to write down any questions you have. Now, I know some of you might think, I don't want to ask those questions, but let's be really, really clear that we know that the question you're asking, someone else is going to want to ask it too. So that's where answering it here, you're actually helping everyone out. But if that's something you don't want to do, you can always ask us questions and tag us into specific things in your docs that you're working through as well. So that's the first step. When you start your lesson, you pop onto here and you let us know that you're here. Okay? Then there may be a Screencastify to go through some of your work. Okay? There may not be one for every single lesson because the projects you're doing don't necessarily require that, but that will be something you would do as well. So what you're working on is your assessment task, your project. And if we go back to what that project was, you have a narrative that you're writing and a justification based on that narrative. So where we're at in terms of your work is that we have done checkpoint 1 and you've been given some feedback on your draft, and we're moving into working on checkpoint 2, which is due on Monday, okay? So if we move down into here, checkpoint 2 is your justification. I might do a Screencastify tomorrow, just to run you through a little bit more about that justification, how to write it, why we write it, all those different elements. So basically this lesson, we would be expecting that that's what you're working on, is your assessment task. If you have finished everything you think you have from that assessment task, you've done your justification, you might be thinking, what do I do now? I would really encourage you, firstly, to seek feedback on what you've got, but to go back over it and to develop it further. Something you really need to get into the habit of doing with your writing is to not just write it once or twice, but to actually really go through it in a fine-tooth comb. How can you use language to really engage your audience in the way that you're trying to engage them? How are you using those features of horror? Okay, I am looking forward to seeing you online, and I am looking forward to working with you and reading your fantastic stories. Have a wonderful day too.